second in this race in 2018 as well, when he was run for the first time 2 years ago. Dewi Griffiths, the Welsh #1, back from illness and injury, had a torrid last couple of years, so it's terrific to see him back on the start line, and we wish him well. Marius Kipsarham from Kenya, who's a two-time Rotterdam champion, also won the inaugural Abu Dhabi Marathon a couple of years ago. He will probably, on paper, provide the stiffest opposition to this man, who scarcely needs an introduction. Probably, almost probably, the greatest track athlete of all time, Kenenisa Bekele. Still the world record holder over 5,000 and 10,000, and of course the second fastest marathon runner in history, just 2 seconds behind Eliud Kipchoge, that wonderful run in Berlin last September. So coiled springs waiting to be unleashed on the streets of London. Watch is ready, and we are away. The third running of the big half in beautiful conditions is underway in 2020. 15,000 runners, each with their own individual goals, personal best to try and break, many people running for the very first time, club runners of course, British Championship places up for grabs, also Olympic qualification. So Hannah, plenty of stories within the main story.
There are lots of stories today, and I just want to say it is so great to see such a strong domestic field assembled here. It's going to be really, really competitive in the men's and the women's, and just really excited to see how these guys can do on a beautiful morning as well. I think there could be some fast times up for grabs, and to see someone like Bekele running around our capital city is just always a pleasure.
Yeah, I spoke to him on Friday. He was delighted, genuinely delighted to be back. Despite the weather, when we spoke on Friday, it was hosing down outside. He'd just flown in from rather different climes in from Addis Ababa, but he loves racing here. He'll be back, as I say, in the capital in 8 weeks' time, going head-to-head against Eliud Kipchoge, and it's always a joy to have such a, well, an iconic runner running in our capital city here. Chris Thompson, a man you know well.
Yeah, some people would say Chris Thompson's a bit iconic. There you go. He's been around a long time, and this is what I love about Chris. So he's obviously come here feeling in good shape and doesn't want to mess around. And if he knows the kind of pace he wants to try and show over a half marathon, he's perhaps not going to sit in the group and let that go. And Chris is particularly good at setting his stall out like this, and it often gives him the advantage over some of the other British runners. And he might be trying to get a jump on some of the British field here.
Yes, and he's started out very breezily here. Chris Thompson, now 38 years old, probably one of Britain's most enduring athletes. I mean, he's had a terrific career. Obviously was in the shadow of Mo Farah on the track in the early days. We think back to those European Championships, back in 2010, 10 years ago now. For the last couple of years, you know, when Chris Thompson is injury-free, and that's not often, he's still very talented.
No, that's incredibly true, and that really is the point. When he's not injured and when he's had a good string of training, he is absolutely well, not unstoppable, but he looks unstoppable right now, doesn't he? And yeah, I admire the aggressiveness he shows when he races.
Well, he had a good year last year. He won the Bristol 10K, also won the Great South Run over 10 miles back in October 2018, and behind them, well, as we say, this is all about community today. There are plenty of races on the streets of London, but this one is all about introducing new runners to running, maybe people who haven't run before, people looking to improve their times, test themselves over perhaps a longer distance. We've got the little half, we've got the big mile later on, and as we were hearing from Rachel, the festival in Greenwich Park, which sadly last year had to be cancelled due to the weather, but this year will be going ahead. So plenty of entertainment to get your teeth stuck into over the next few hours.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see just the strength and depth here, and I think it's fantastic. You can have company if you're a female here. Look at this Harrison here. She's going to have great support from the club runners around her, and it's an opportunity to run really fast and set down a PB. And I love the fact that you've got the runners of all ability all running the same course, and they all compare each other.
Yeah, that's all very different to your career as a track athlete, of course, where it was elite against elite, and this sort of event is a very different thing. You've got obviously very talented. I mean, to be out here running today in beautiful sunshine, I nearly said warm sunshine, but it will be warming up a little by little as we go through the morning. But to be actually in the same race as the greatest track athlete of all time in Kenenisa Bekele. Must be a real thrill.
It must, yeah, I think it will be. And I think a lot of these runners today will have looked at the weather all week and been incredibly relieved this is what they woke up to this morning. This will not have been the training conditions these group of athletes have gone through in the last month. So to get the chance to come out and finally get a sunny day and that be the day you're doing your race is going to be good fun for them.
Just to mark your card as well, we mentioned several stories within stories. So on the women's side, we have 4 women who've run the Olympic qualifying time for the marathon. That's 2:29:30, and one of the 2 of them are in this race today. And we are approaching 5 minutes into the race. And on the men's side, of course, in terms of Olympic qualification, Callum Hawkins has already been pre-selected for that race in Tokyo. And so it's a question of who's going to try and grab one of the 2 other places. And Chris Thompson, of course, Andy Vernon, we should mention as well, is also in the field today. Dowie Griffiths we saw at the start. Derek Hawkins, Callum's brother, is also in the race today. Yes, I think there's a lot of guys that will fancy their chances of getting one of those spots in one of those 2 remaining spots in Tokyo. But we've got Johnny Mellor, who actually ran a 2:10 marathon last week in Seville, again getting under that Olympic qualifying mark. He chose to go and do it in a different race, not the trial race, but he's really thrown his name in the mix as well. As you can see, just entering the Limehouse link, it's the 2nd largest non-estuarial road tunnel in the UK. And as you can see, nice welcome little decline as they make their way towards Canary Wharf and the financial district of London. And Chris Thompson is really taking these early few kilometres off very, very aggressively indeed. Kenenisa Bekele just in the middle of that shot of the chasing pack. Chris Thompson, were you expecting this? I'm not too surprised. Like I said before, Chris doesn't really like to mess around. Maybe he's got an eye on this will be a good indicator for him on how his training's going, and if he believes he's in PB shape and it's good weather and it's a good course, he's going to have a go at it. And it's interesting to see the likes of Nick Gulab sort of waking up a bit and realising Chris is serious. I don't want him getting too far ahead. Well, that PB was 61 minutes exactly, set at the Great North Run back in 2012. And of course, Kenenisa Bekele, his only other half marathon, in fact, was at the Great North Run as well, against Mo Farah and Haile Gebrselassie. That was in 2013. Probably one of the most thrilling finishes down on the south coast there, on the southeast coast of all time, when Kenenisa just managed to hold on against Mo Farah, who came back very, very strongly. So he will have fond memories, I'm sure, of racing the half marathon. So yes, this is our women's leader, I think. I want to say Natalie Harrison. I've got to apologise. I'm pretty sure her name starts with N, but yeah, she has been running very, very well. Samantha Harrison. Samantha Harrison. Apologies for that. No, I knew. Yeah, so we've only got her down on a sort of club start, but she has got a PB of 71:43 for the Great North Run, and she clearly feels pretty good today. And I'd probably say similar to Chris, she's just gone, I know what pace I can run today. I'm just going to get out there and do it. And you can see she's got great support round from the male club runners, and exciting to see if she can hold on to this. Yeah, she's going well. She's an athlete with Knots AC. And of course, many of you watching will be recognising your club vest. We've got Morpeth, of course, one of the great clubs from the northeast. And there's Kenenisa Bekele with that trademark, slightly buccaneering, rolling action, but a really economical style. And Kenenisa Bekele, well, where should we start with him? I mean, one of the changes he's made in recent years, he did a lot of his training until last year on his own. He preferred to train on his own. He's got his own track. With his own money, built an all-weather track just outside Addis Ababa, where people like Mo Farah have trained on occasion. But now he's with Haji, isn't he, one of the foremost Ethiopian athletes. And actually that change, I think, did him the power of good. And I remember him saying after that performance in Berlin last year that actually joining a group really helped him. Yeah, you've got to mix things up if you've been running as many years as him. Something that worked for him 10 years ago might not be the right thing for him right now. And there were certain whisperings and accusations from some of his support staff that he wasn't taking his training as seriously as he should be. And that never came from him. I don't think he felt that he'd backed off. But I really wonder how much of that 2:01:41 that he did in Berlin was kind of a big, like, well, I am still here. I am still a force to be reckoned with. And yeah, I'm sure he would have been disappointed to just miss out on that world record, but it really put a marker down as we move into this Olympic year. Very much so, yes. A lot of people had, as you say, written him off. Kenenisa's finished. It's a point I actually put to him when I spoke to him on Friday, and he said, I can understand why people would think that, because he had a bit like Chris Thompson, really, who's there left of picture, lots of injuries over the years, but when he's fit and firing on all cylinders, he is still a very, very dangerous, hugely talented athlete. And I think Kenenisa Bekele really surprised a lot of people. And to a certain extent himself, that run in Berlin last year was truly exceptional. Just to his right there, incidentally, number 253, Omar Ahmed from Birchville Harriers. So he's a 62-minute half-marathon runner. So he's rubbing shoulders with half-marathon and track royalty here, just coming out of the Limehouse Link.
Yes, he's been doing very well in a lot of road races, particularly in the Birmingham area and some of the great run events. It's interesting to see him having a go. And I think, again, I just said it, but when you wake up with conditions like this and you feel like you're in the shape of your life, then hey, what an opportunity.
Just having to work a little bit harder as they come out of the Limehouse Link. They're going to make their way into Canary Wharf. There we are. There is Samantha Harrison, 25 years old, 71.43. Her half-marathon best. So no signs so far. We assume that Lily Partridge is in that group behind.
Yeah, and I think I saw Lily in the background, but Samantha's just sort of got stuck in here. And like you said, she's fairly new to this level of running. She started running in 2018. That's sort of what people would, what she'd sort of say. And over the last few years, she's gone 81 minutes, 76 minutes, 74, 73. She's chipping away. It's going to be interesting to see if she's got a bit more in there today.
So perhaps a new name to look out for here. We should say that the likes of Charlotte Purdue, Charlie Purdue, who's Britain's #1 marathon runner. She's been competing in Japan recently. She was the winner here last year. She's going to stay out in Australia, isn't she, with her coach Nick Bideau, getting ready for the London Marathon in 8 weeks' time. Yeah,
so she ran a very good half marathon in Japan recently, but it's looking that her build-up, she felt it wasn't right to incorporate a race like that.
4th and 5th places in the men's race, and we have Ross Millington there, left of picture with the shades.
Yes, and the other guy we've got there is Jake Smith, who's an interesting one for me. He's only 21. You don't usually necessarily see sort of Europeans achieving much at 21 on the roads, but he's actually the under-23 British record holder for the half marathon at a time that he ran 62:02 to take Callum Hawkins' British record, and he's gone on to run quite well.
That's impressive, isn't it? And as you say, all of that at the age of 21.
Yes, and if he was to run a PB today, that could be a new British under-23 record.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that. We're just going past Billingsgate Fish Market, for those of you like your historical landmarks. So a lot of this course will be familiar to people who've run the London Marathon, and much of this course, of course, is run in reverse from the race that we'll have on the 26th of April. If you were expecting to see Mo Farah taking part in this race and you hadn't heard, he was sadly forced to withdraw a couple of weeks ago or so with a minor Achilles problem. So he is just taking precautions there. He's, of course, planning to return to the track for the Olympic Games in Tokyo, back to the 10,000 meters. And just on the theme, Hannah, of Tokyo, Kenenisa Bekele, who actually had said that he wasn't planning to take any part in the Olympic Games this year, told me on Friday that he's very much got his name forward for selection for the Ethiopian team in the marathon in Tokyo.
Oh, brilliant. That's what we want to hear. And I wonder how much of that performance in Berlin contributed to that decision. And you've got to see how you recover from something like that as well. You've got to have that confidence that you can recover and go again and get ready for another summer marathon. And it's really exciting to see that he does want to be there and try and pick up another Olympic medal, perhaps.
Yeah, the confidence that he will take from that performance in Berlin. And I was fortunate enough to be in Berlin that day covering the race. And at one point, from memory, he was almost 90 seconds outside Eliud Kipchoge's world record pace. And he wasn't even leading the race. He actually slipped a second, had a bit of a stitch, and got himself back. And he finished like a train. He really did put the gas down in the last 10 kilometers. And as we saw coming through the Brandenburg Gate, he was literally on course for world record pace and just shy of Eliud Kipchoge's world record by 2 seconds. And that showdown, as it's being billed in London, back here in London at the end of April, Bekele against Eliud Kipchoge, the 2 fastest marathon runners of all time, going head to head. That could be something rather special. That
could truly be incredibly special. And he ran that Berlin race was just 2 weeks before the Ineos Challenge, and I wonder how much they were watching each other there.
look down to your left so we can see them.
So here we can see the group of the second women that are behind Sam Harrison. We can pick out Hayley Carruthers, Lily Partridge, Steph Davis. Is it just those three? Another couple at the back there. So this looks like they were children. You know, we're talking sort of 10 or 11, and they're very, very familiar with each other. And yeah, it must be quite interesting to drop into that group and not have the same history as the others. But obviously it hasn't held her back. Running 2:27.40 is a massively respectable time. And yeah, I just think she's thrown a cat among the pigeons, really.
She works in the city, so she's got a proper job, a full-time job. She's still without a sponsor. Runs for Clapham Chasers down in South London. Originally from Scotland, from Glasgow. And just, he looks, if you look at the facial expression there, a man who means business here. And what a thrill it must be for him, regardless of what happens in the rest of this race, to be going toe-to-toe, just the two of them, with the great Kenenisa Bekele.
Yeah. No, it's great to see Chris Thompson sticking on this, and we were wondering whether we get to see many of the Brits here with a dominant performance at the front, and it's brilliant to see Chris in the mix here.
So good vocal support on the streets, Canary Wharf tube station just gone past, and this is still Samantha Harrison, still looking good. She's broken clear of that group of male runners that she was running with. What we don't know at the moment, we're just trying to find out what sort of lead she has, and we've seen the likes of Lily Partridge and Steph Davis and Hayley Carruthers in that chasing pack. But so far, and we look at shoulders, don't we, at this stage, when we've got the head-on shot, Hannah, we're looking for how relaxed the shoulders are on the face. What are you seeing here?
I think she looks good. I think she looks like it's a pretty comfortable, normal pace for her. You know, she normal stride, looks pretty comfortable, and I think it's early days. She's got to try and keep this up for close to another hour, which is just, I love that element of racing over this distance, and you've got to pace yourself and you've got to measure your effort correctly. But to me, she looks great so far.
Last year we had Steph 12, of course, and Charlie Purdy, who eventually came through to win. The course record in the women's race was set by Charlotte Purdue 2 years ago. That's 70:29. So that would be the target here for Samantha Harrison.
No, and right now she will be a target for those other female runners as well. I mean, from just counting in my head, I think she's got about 8 or 10 seconds over the other women in this race, but they have got the advantage of being in a big group. And Samantha Harrison at the moment, she is running a little bit solo, but she might be used to that in training. She might be fine. She doesn't look stressed about it.
Time bonuses as well.
And back to the men's race, just coming down this hill. Oh, that's interesting to see the mile splits here. We can see that they set off really quite aggressively there, and they have settled down a little bit, but they're probably still operating at around 62-minute pace, do you reckon? Yeah,
absolutely. They set off pretty quickly there with 4:24. Well, record pace is around 4:30, so that was pretty quick, that opening mile.
Yeah, like we mentioned, with Chris Thompson with a PB of 61 dead, you know, he's operating right in PB shape, and yeah, maybe you think really fancies having a go at that today. But he's pretty notorious for going off aggressively, Chris, and I can see him holding on to a good time today from what it looks like so far.
Well, no sign at the moment of Marius Kipsarem, the Kenyan, who was really given more prominence, I suppose, after the withdrawal of Lawrence Chirono. It's a real shame for Lawrence Chirono, who was really selected, I guess, to replace Mo Farah when he had to pull out a couple of weeks ago. And Chirono, of course, the in-form marathon runner, having won his last 3 marathons in Chicago brilliantly, and then Boston. He'll be defending his title in Boston in a few weeks' time, and then Amsterdam as well. He's very much the in-form athlete, so just a precaution, I think. He felt a bit of a hamstring, I think, on Saturday morning when he went for his morning jog.
No, it shows him got to protect his body if he's got those marathons coming up. But you would have predicted we might have had one of those. So we get an awful lot of Ethiopia versus Kenya. They've got a massive distance running tradition, and it's great to see those two nations battling out. But I'd rather see Ethiopia versus Britain, and that's what we're getting treated to now.
Chris Thompson, of course, married to Gemma Simpson, who you know well from your days. Absolutely. In 1500 metre running. That was a very strong era. I was looking back at your terrific run in Daegu just last night, just to remind myself, and they were healthy days for 1500 metre running, weren't they, for our country?
Oh, absolutely. No, we've got a great tradition of middle distance running on the female side and the male side as well, and it obviously. But you know, it's great to see. It's great to see just British running in general is just doing fantastic at the minute, and it's so exciting in an Olympic year.
Chris Thompson, who's a 4 times London Marathon athlete, And of course, in terms of his track pedigree,
It'd be great to see Chris make another Olympic team. He went to 2012, but he struggled a lot with injury. He was obviously delighted to compete in a home games, but not be able to give perhaps the best representation of himself for struggling with injury. So just to see him still out here fighting to make another Olympic team is really inspiration.
Well, here's the chasing pack in the women's race, and again we can still see Steph Davis there, left of picture in the white top. Lily Partridge is in there as well. Hayley Carruthers, all chasing down Samantha Harrison, who's we think about what 8 or 9 seconds ahead.
Yeah, they've got a really strong group here, and if there is any wind out there that could be making this job harder for the ladies to catch Sam Harrison, they won't be having to deal with it. They're really very well sheltered and protected in this group of men.
Lily Partridge, incidentally, is the one wearing the white headband. Back to the men's wheelchair race. And we've got Brent Lakatos still leading the way with David Weir. David Weir in second place. So it's as we were there. Sidbury in third place. Danny Sidbury from Great Britain as well. Just from a technical point of view, Hannah, just zoom in on Kenenisa Bekele. What is most impressive about his running style?
It's just so economic, and it always has been. To me, there's not much difference from his track running style to his road running style. People talk about how you might need a different technique, but he just looks so smooth, and it's the cadence as well. When you can just clip your legs over like that, it looks unstoppable, doesn't it? And don't get me wrong, Chris was a good running style as well, but you can really tell that the miles that have gone into both of these guys to help them run like this.
Well, they're back on the highway, which is where they started the race, about 23 minutes ago. And they're heading now towards Wapping.
Yeah, you can see a bit of a glance behind from Chris there. Sometimes people say that's a sign of weakness. I don't think that didn't look like a sign of weakness today. I think he's just assessing what's going on around him and kind of trying to see whether he really is as clear in second as he feels. And they really have gapped the rest of the field here. I can't really see the people behind them getting anywhere near these two today.
And if you're Kenenisa Bekele, you know that, with all due respect to Chris Thompson, your track record speaks for itself. Does he just use Chris perhaps as a little bit of company for the majority of the race and then just move away in the latter stages in terms of his preparation for London in 8 weeks' time?
Yeah, besides that is what you would anticipate on paper, but I'm pretty sure Chris is a ferocious competitor, and you generally never know what happens. I mean, Bekele could have had a bit of food poisoning, could have had a bit of cold, could be carrying a little strain. You know, and anything could happen, and that is the beauty of racing. They've got to race it today, but as you say, you would expect the Ethiopian to pull away from Chris here.
And unlike Bekele, Chris Thompson hasn't flown in from a different continent in the last couple of days, so we'll keep an eye on the men's race. But Steph Davis, back to her. As I say, 29 years old, 72.58. Her personal best in the half marathon. She's saying a few weeks ago that she'd ideally like to turn semi-professional, so she's a complete amateur at the moment, and she lined up in the London Marathon last year with the elite for the first time, and what a story that would be if she were able to clinch a place for Tokyo at the Olympic Games this summer.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a thousand different ways to prepare for athletics, but to do it alongside a full-time job, I think is particularly admirable. And Hayley Carruthers works for NHS radiographer as well, and we've got Eleanor Wynnham Davis towards the back as well. We think she's a full-time doctor, or at least a part-time doctor, and that's really impressive to balance those elements all together.
And she'll be a very busy NHS doctor at the moment for reasons I'm sure we don't need to mention. Yes,
yes.
It's extraordinary, isn't it, that they are able to combine these two careers. Lily Partridge has been training, as she does often at this time of the year, down in the south of Spain, hasn't she, and been going well?
No, Mercy is a tremendous region. Callum Hawkins has used it a lot, and we've got Ben Connor, Lily's boyfriend, who's not racing today, but he's been doing his preparations for London Marathon down there. It's I've been myself twice, and I can say it is a great place. Genuinely very similar weather to we get today. Cold and bright. I think this would be what Lily's been experiencing for the last month or so. Yeah,
she's been posting quite a few very enviable pictures of very warm weather over the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aldershot, Farnham District, of course, along with the likes of Steph Twell. So looking good. These three just clicking off these early kilometres, but they are second, third and fourth respectively, with Sam Harrison still out in front.
And we've got number 301 there. Dan Robinson is, I think he actually coaches. He's Hayley's coach, so he's keeping an extra close eye on his athlete today, but he's also a very competitive runner himself, so let's see what he can manage today for himself.
I don't know if you saw, but they made a film together, didn't they? They've got quite a lot of good views of what she went through after that dramatic finish in London last year. And after she finished in the London Marathon, she went back, as you say, to her full-time job the very next day as a radiographer. Business as usual.
Wow.
Kenenisa just picking up some drinks there.
Yeah, it's interesting to see Chris not bother with a drink there. He must, he really has attacked past that drink station and taken the shorter line. And he really is making Bekele work for this, isn't he?
This is an aggressive performance. They've gone through 5 miles. And they're just working their way now towards Tower Bridge, the famous Tower Bridge, of course, which will take them from the north of the river to the south. But Chris Thompson, yeah, looks as though he's got the bit between his teeth and really looks as though he's serious about this big half today.
It's an interesting perspective with the drink as well. You know, some people would say, I don't need a drink in a half marathon. It's not hot. It's oh, here we go towards the end of the men's wheelchair race here.
Well, Brent Legatos there has put in a bit of a spurt here, the Canadian. And in second place there, Danny Sidbury in the red, and David Weir in third place. Course record held by David Weir, 51.12. We'll keep you up to date with the men's wheelchair race as they approach the finish line. But Chris Thompson on the cobbles through Wapping, turning on the gas.
He is, isn't he? He's really having a go here, Chris, and he must just feel good, and why not? And let's see Kenenisa Bekele try and get back on terms with him here. I'm not sure he would have expected a burst. That he probably sort of settled down and thought they were just out for a run together, and Chris Thompson's got other ideas, and Chris Thompson's just a die-hard competitor, isn't he?
He never knows when he's beaten, and just to remind you, Chris Thompson, 38 years old now. And it's just so good to see him injury-free. It
is. A 10K in around 28:30. That's quick, isn't it?
It is quick.
This is where the strength of the marathon training could come through for these two. If you'd like to see them be able to hold on to a really fast pace and not sort of falter in the latter half.
In last year's race, we saw Mo Farah actually several times drop off the pace and quite considerably, far more, in fact, than the gap between these two here, and then put in a few surges just to test the opposition, and eventually came through in a pretty much trademark Mo Farah sprint finish to make it 2 wins out of 2.
Yeah. Looks to me like Bekele is getting his head down, and he's working on closing that gap kind of slowly. The cobbles are tricky as well. It could just be to negotiate these cobbles and then get back on terms with Chris Thompson.
So into the second half of this race. 21 kilometres, of course, and Chris Thompson continues to look good here with the still double world record holder over 5,000 and 10,000 metres. We always say, for many people, or probable best track athlete of all time. Where is he for you? Is he the very best?
He was so dominant when he was winning those Olympic titles, and he was a joy to watch. So yeah, I'd say he's up there.
Back to the women's race, and for me that gap is closing. Samantha Harrison still leading the well, still looking pretty comfortable, but I think the chasing three of Carruthers, Davis and Partridge are starting just to reel her in here.
Yeah, I'd like to see Sam Harrison getting a bit of help here. She got the perfect male club runner right now that would really support her. I kind of feel sorry for her that she's been out on her own a little bit.
Incidentally, we have a new world record in the women's half marathon set just a week or so ago at the RAC half marathon, as often is the case. Ababel Yeshine came through in 64:31. That was 20 seconds off the previous world record. So that's the benchmark, if you like, in world terms. Of course, it's the world lead as well. The course record on this big half course, 70:29, as I mentioned, set by Charlotte Purdue 2 years ago.
Just trying to count back to the... Oh, here we go. Is this some more of the wheelchair riders coming in?
Yep, Simon Lawson coming through. Again, he's a previous winner of the Great North Run. Shelley Woods leading the women's, looking as though she's blowing hard. Of course, coming back from having a baby in any sport is a real challenge, and all credit to Shelley Woods for trying to get back to the very, very best of her sport after giving birth to her baby Leo last year.
Absolutely. And here we are back to the lead of the men's race. And as predicted, Kenenisa Bekele has got himself back up to Chris Thompson, and they can perhaps share that workload at the front. And this will be interesting now, the psyche of Chris Thompson, when you make a move like that and he still comes back. So here we go, for 4:37 pace. Again, they really are operating close to 1 hour dead for this half marathon, which there might be some people watching that have tried a half marathon themselves that think an hour for a half marathon is superhuman. And yeah, getting to see these guys do it today.
Absolutely, yeah, we could be in for a course record. Mo Farah holds the course record here, 61:40. So we'll keep an eye on that. Real quality. And actually, we've got the best of both worlds here, haven't we? We've got British interest very much in the form of Chris Thompson. And then, of course, as expected, Kenenisa Bekele, one of the best, if not the best over the track, leading the way. So a terrific head-to-head here.
No, you know, whatever happens over this next half an hour or so, for me, to see Chris Thompson this aggressive at this pace, throwing moves down on Olympic champion, it's just great for me, and really look forward to seeing what he can do in 2 months' time at the London Marathon.
The second and third places in the women's wheelchair race, chasing Shelley Woods, who was leading as we saw. Mel Nichols in second place, who represented Great Britain at the Paralympic Games, and Eden Rainbow Cooper in third place. So second and third in the women's wheelchair. Quite a gap behind Shelley Woods.
This is quite an age gap here. We've got Mel Nichols at 42 with all her experience, and Eden Rainbow Cooper at 18. And it must be really fun for Eden to learn off someone of that age and toe the line with her.
Just about to cross Tower Bridge, as we see. So back to the women's race. Over half an hour of running, approaching halfway for the women. And Samantha Harrison still going well, the Knots AC runner.
And I think you're right, Chris. I think that gap is a tiny bit smaller, but not, you know, it's, and here we go. Kenenisa Bekele really stretching out across Tower Bridge, and perhaps Chris woke him up a bit with that move past the drink station a few miles ago, and he's really wants to stamp his authority on this race and find out how much he's got in his legs ahead of his next marathon. Well,
of course, in 8 weeks' time, he will be crossing this very same bridge, this iconic Tower Bridge, but in the other direction. And there he is, just reeling in one or two of the wheelchair athletes as well. And it feels as though the handbrakes come off. He's nicely lubricated and warm. Everything's feeling good. Chris Thompson was very aggressive, and now there is a definite gap opening up there. And I think it's a gap that's widening and widening. And barring any major problems, Hannah, from here, you feel as though it's really how fast and how quickly Kenenisa Bekele wants to go from here. Absolutely, I think, and Chris has probably done him a favour here, giving him a race in that first half and set him up really nicely for a fast time here. And yeah, perhaps he has got half an hour on that course record, and just sort of sending a bit of a warning to his competitors. Well, the confidence, we keep repeating this, but it's worth bearing in mind that many people had written off Kenenisa Bekele. His record in the full marathon, for all his achievements on the track, doesn't make particularly good reading. He's won only 3 of 9 marathons. He's had a couple of DNFs. He had a DNS, so he didn't start a race in Dubai a few years ago. And so for many people who thought he would just make the transition effortlessly from the track to the road, you know, that isn't a foregone conclusion, is it? It's not as easy as people think. Absolutely not. People just go, you get older, you move up distances, you'll be fine. And perhaps we could even say the same for Mo Farah. You know, it made him look a bit more human. You know, and the way he could run away from people on the track that hasn't transferred in the marathon yet for him, and you can see why he would make that decision to have another go at the track this year. And perhaps we'll see him try the marathon again after this track campaign this summer. But it's certainly not a foregone conclusion that track form equals road form. No, absolutely not. Bekele just looking at his watch on several occasions there. I think he feels as though this is a day, the conditions are good, there's very little wind. It's bright, it's sunny, there's no rain, it's nice and dry underfoot, and now he's just imagining that he's in the hills in Toto above Addis Ababa at altitude, where he's been doing a lot of his training, those wonderful trails. For some of you watching who may have heard of the conditions around Addis, are absolutely perfect. So Kenenisa Bekele has broken free from Chris Thompson. The question is, in the women's race, can Sam Harrison break free again from the chasing pack? I saw a few nervous
nervous looks back from her, and it must be it's kind of nerve-wracking be out on the front that, and then she must be wondering, every one of these male runners that comes on her shoulder, oh no, is that one of the females? Are they back to me yet? And that can be stressful, and I hope she can stay relaxed and. Whatever happens, if the women catch her, let's hope she can join them and just really sort of push on for a PB.
Yes, that can be demoralising, can't it, when you don't know what's behind you, and as you mentioned already on, it's a sign of weakness, of looking behind. We haven't seen, in fairness, Samantha Harrison look behind once yet, but she must feel, she can hear certainly the pitter-patter of running shoes behind her. And what she doesn't know at this stage is whose running shoes they are. But we can see, even allowing for the foreshortening of that head-on shot, we can see that the three chasing female runners are getting perhaps closer and closer.
Yeah, I think it's more like 7 seconds or so now, where it was maybe 10 seconds a few miles ago. But you know, she's still maintaining that gap. She's definitely not really hitting the wall or anything like that. You can see Lily Partridge and Steph Davis there, and we've got Hayley Carruthers still in shot as well.
Yeah, Lily Partridge just starting to open up a little bit of a gap over Steph Davis, and then maybe, 4 or 5 metres behind, we have Hayley Carruthers. So those three just starting to splinter there. And again, just looking at, just slightly obscured at the moment, but Lily Partridge looking pretty comfortable and looking very nice and relaxed.
No, she is, and you talked about that running style of Kenenisa Bekele, and yeah, Lily looks pretty good there. She looks like she's been putting the miles in, and she's got a great economy that you look for in a marathon runner, and I think she'll be having fun trying out these roads today.
Just a fashion detail, is the headband a new addition? I've not seen her wear a headband many times before.
No, I haven't. Yeah, it is new, but it's pretty cold out there. You might get cold ears today. You can see Steph Davis taking on a gel there. You know, that'd be part of her preparation for the marathon as well. Really practicing fueling during a race is a big part of preparing for a marathon, and today is an opportunity for her to try that. And I think many of the runners out there today will be trying some of the tactics that they might take forward into the next marathon. You can see Hayley Carruthers there in 4th place at the moment, just trying to hold on to those women as the group fragments a bit. They really were together as a group for that first 30-35 minutes, and it's starting to spread out now.
Tower of London, of course, on the right shoulder of Steph Davis. And again, her office is actually only, half a mile or so away from this bridge where she works in the city in the financial services industry.
But there's usually a bit more traffic around there for her if she goes
right.
on a run around there.
Yeah, these runners have the freedom of the streets of London. It really is a real privilege. And there is Hayley Carruthers, who ran the London Marathon last year, only 3 years after taking up the sport. So again, her rise through the rankings, if you like, has been pretty impressive as well.
Actually, see, Lily really has got a good group of men there to work with, and they are closing in on Samantha Davis here. And let me see, what do you reckon? Another half a mile, another mile, and Lily will be back with her?
I think once they hit Tooley Street and get into Bermondsey, we may well see a group of 3 become a group of 4. Tower Hotel, just on the right there, headquarters for the media operation for the London Marathon. So many of the athletes in action today will be back there, giving their press conferences before the 40th London Marathon on the 26th of April. That's exactly 8 weeks to go today.
It is, and I think if it's anything like the weather is today, that'll be absolutely brilliant, won't it? And it will look great.
Yes, I mean, often in the past, the London Marathon in recent years has been almost too warm, hasn't it? We've had some extraordinary conditions. Now they're coming down off the middle of the bridge, and for anybody who's run in either direction, you'll know that obviously there's a rise up to the apex of the bridge and then a gentle decline, so they're enjoying that now. Also enjoying himself on the streets of Bermondsey, Kenenisa Bekele, with that wonderful, easy action, so economical. And he is checking his watch, isn't he? I think he's looking for a time here.
I think he must be. I think he'll have an idea of what his training has indicated he is capable of. But it's one thing to do it in training. You want to come out and show it off on the roads. But that gap he's opened up on Chris and got over sort of 6 or 7 minutes. He has absolutely lost Chris, and looking really, really good. Here we go in some mile splits. So you can see he's done the damage there, dropping from 4:50 to 4:36. It must have a bit of an incline in that to make a 4:50 out of that, but 4:36 is really going some, and that, like we were saying, round about that 60-minute pace, and it'd be fantastic to see a sub-50 here today.
It would be indeed. Sub-60, yes. Yes, let's not get greedy. Yeah, Bekele looking absolutely supreme here, and if he can continue this and get a decent time, that again will give him huge confidence going into the London Marathon. And again, that head-to-head with Eliud Kipchoge, and of course, since Bekele was last in action in London, we've had the historic sub-2-hour marathon mark broken by Kipchoge. in Vienna last October. I asked Bekele whether he'd been watching that. He said, of course I did. I was watching on the television. And of course, that has also whetted his appetite. And actually, he did say a few weeks ago that had he had that level of support as well and the conditions, he fancied himself to go under 2 hours as well.
That's just what I was going to ask. I mean, would you... Oh, here we go. We'll come back to the women. So we have got, yeah, you can see Lily Partridge really has got Samantha Harrison in her sights. That's the closest we've seen Lily to, well, any female to Samantha Harrison. Trying to see if Lily's brought any of the other females with her, because today there are spots on the line for the World Half Marathon Championships that are a month today in Poland, and the selection policy states the first 3 British women over the line will get automatic selection for that championships. And so, you know, even if Lily does catch Samantha, she's got a chance, or I presume will be her first GB vest if she can pull this off. And it's a fantastic motivation for these ladies out, and to go to a global championships in the half marathon. It's just a really cool event, I think.
Yes, those championships on the 29th, as you say, of March in Gdynia in Poland. So at the moment we have Samantha Harrison still leading the way, but her lead is being eroded stride by stride from Lily Partridge in second place there with the white headband. And then just a little bit further back we have Steph Davis from Clapham Chasers, the Glasgow-born runner who's very much new to elites running in this country. Yeah. And now she's almost up on her shoulder.
This is important to me. What happens to Samantha Harrison now? She's shown great tenacity and strength to get this far in the lead anyway, but it's really what's her headspace now when Lily pulls up on her shoulder?
Well, with your former racing brain on, what would you do if you were Lily? Go straight past?
Yeah, you got to go straight past.
Yeah, don't stop.
Let's see. I mean, what do? Do you give her a nod? Do you say, yeah, well done? But yeah, she does look like Lily might be settling there, but you can't tell. You've got this whole group of men beside her. You know, you can't tell whether she wants to move through, but she can't because she's not got the space right now.
I was just looking for the reaction, whether it was going to be a little glance to the right by Samantha Harrison, just to acknowledge the fact that Lily Partridge was now up on her shoulder. She must have felt it coming. She must have suspected that they would be there or thereabouts.
Yeah, absolutely. But similar to Chris Thompson, maybe Samantha Harrison was that I can hold this miling, you know, this pace for this long. I'm just going to do it. If anyone wants to beat me, they're going to have to do it.
So the women threw 8 miles in just outside 43 minutes, and here are the men's wheelchairs coming round, and it's Brent Lakatos, the Canadian, who is going to come through to take a terrific victory in 48.45. A terrific performance by him, and that is a new course record from Brent Lakatos. He smashed David Weir's course record.
Oh wow, that's quite some performance today. Here we go, back to the women's race. Right, well, either Lily's tried to go past and Samantha Harrison hasn't let her, or Lily just want to settle for a bit and gather before the finish.
They have got a lot of company, though. There isn't a huge amount of room for Lily to have automatically gone into without moving quite wide.
No, I did see one gentleman trying to deliberately give the ladies space and respect the fact that there is a race going on between these two. But yeah, these men are running for their personal best and their performances as well, so they've got every right to run the correct line for them. But yeah, Samantha Harrison, maybe that nearly really woke her up a little bit there.
Well, she's put a bit of a spurt. She hasn't lost ground on Lily Partridge, so we've now got 2 women virtually glued together in the women's race, approaching 45 minutes here, so they're on their way to mile 9. We've already had Brent Lakatos in the wheelchair race, and here is David Weir. Coming home in second place, David Weir, who was winner here, of course, in 2019. Not to be his day today. David Weir coming home in second place behind Brent Lakatos. We'll get his thoughts afterwards. So a second place for David Weir in the 3 years of this race.
And we cut to another Brit in the second place. We've got Chris Thompson holding on to second place here. Really set his stall out and dropped everyone, apart from Kenenisa Bekele, a multi-time Olympic champion. He's done really well to drop everyone else, and it's be good to see him hold on for a good PB or a good marker before his marathon. But he's working hard, but that's Chris, he works hard. I think he'll be enjoying himself. It's a nice sunny day, but I do think it's going to be a hard next 15 minutes for him on his own.
I don't know who invented the expression no pain, no gain, but I'd like it to be Chris Thompson, because that's very much his philosophy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. No stranger to hard work. None of these guys are that train at this level, but I'm sure he's been in this level of pain multiple times in the last few months, probably this week, to be honest.
third place in the men's wheelchair race, coming through now in just outside 51 minutes. And it's John Boy Smith coming through. Very, very quick in the men's wheelchair race today. We've got a new course record, subject to confirmation there from Brent Lakatos, sub 50 minutes. And there is John Boy Smith.
Can't tell if he's unhappy about something or, yeah, he does look a bit frustrated. Perhaps there was some trouble in that last few miles that we didn't see. I do hope there wasn't any disruption on the course and obstructions or anything like that for the riders.
Yeah, we'll try and get some reaction from John Boy Smith later on and find out what that reaction was for. Just to remind you, the course record in the men's wheelchair race prior to today, 51.12. Brent Lakatos has gone sub 49 today, so conditions absolutely perfect here.
Absolutely. Here we go, back to first and second in the women's race with Samantha Harrison and Lily Partridge. This is really hotting up to be quite a battle between these two. Yeah, Lily's worked her way back onto Samantha Harrison then, and they just seem to be kind of surging at each other. I haven't yet seen Lily take the lead, so whether she's just content to bide her time and do one big move later on, or whether she's not capable, whether she's right on her limit right now.
Approaching 50 minutes, and Samantha Harrison, who's been leading in the women's race almost from the word go, but now has Lily Partridge for company. And from here, you would expect, based on previous performances and stature of athlete, you would expect Lily Partridge to go on and win this race, but still plenty of twists and turns to go.
Yes, you're right. Lily probably has competed in more higher level road races than Samantha has. It's you know, you do need to build up that sort of experience over these races, but Samantha Harrison's doing it, and she's doing it very well. To go out and put yourself in the lead like this, you're going to learn a lot more about your fitness and your form, and it's great to see someone be brave like that and just sort of roll the dice and have a go.
So a nice race shaping up here in the women's. Samantha Harrison looking good, still looking pretty composed, and we're slightly surprised perhaps that Lily Partridge didn't go ahead. At the moment, this man, Kenenisa Bekele, has the streets of East London to himself.
That was a smooth drink take, wasn't it? That's what he's going to be wanting to repeat in 8 weeks' time here in a marathon. You really want to be nailing that sort of drink station activities. You don't want to see some of the nightmares some of the athletes have.
Yes, and I think of Mo Farah, with no disrespect to Mo, when he talking about making the transition from track to road, and one of the most important things, particularly in marathon running, of course, is the whole technique of taking on board sustenance and liquid, and Mo struggled, if the truth be known, in the early stages.
So my question before we cut back to the women's race was, would you rather run 21:41 in Berlin in a normal race conditions with what you'd experience at Olympic Games, you know, not the special pacemakers and all the other stuff that Eliud Kipchoge had in the sub-2, or would you rather break sub-2? What would give you more confidence as a competitor?
Oh, I think breaking the bona fide world record,
yeah,
I think would do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Because there are people who would question, of course, the validity, really, of that sub-2-hour race, because the conditions were not, of course, ratified for world record purposes, for reasons I'm sure most people watching this will know. It was just an exercise to see if it's humanly possible to do it, and now we know the answer is yes. But of course, it wasn't ratified as a world record.
Mm-hmm. And you'd expect Kenenisa Bekele's got every right to sit at home watching that 2 weeks after running a fantastic race in Berlin and go, yeah, I could have done that. I just really hope we get to see them going head-to-head in 8 weeks, and we can kind of see who comes out on top.
Well, who will come out on top here? Because Samantha Harrison and Lily Partridge are almost stride for stride, and Lily Partridge is looking pretty composed there. Of the two, perhaps Harrison having to work a little bit harder?
Yes, no, Harrison does look under a bit more distress, but she's pushing. You know, she is really testing Lily here. She's not leaving it down to sprint finish or anything like that. And yep, Lily does look smooth. But like I said a few minutes ago, I haven't seen Lily trying to assert her dominance over Sam yet, and that's kind of curious to me that she doesn't want to sort of stamp her authority on it and really test her. She's happy just to sit in there, but that might be part of her race plan. You know, they've still got 20 minutes of running left here. It's a long way. Yeah,
just under 20 minutes to beat the Charlotte Purdue course record. don't think we're on course record pace here in the women's race. We may well be in the men's race because Kenenisa Bekele has, around 10 minutes of running left, just under 10 minutes of running left, and it's really Kenenisa against the clock. But it's an interesting little battle shaping up here between Sam Harrison and Lily Partridge in second place, and the gap to the rest is perhaps getting a little bit longer.
Last we saw was Steph Davis in third place, with Hayley Carruthers just behind her. So it would be interesting to see whether that order stayed the same or whether it's changed at all. But with these two, it'd be great. You know, they're coming up to 10 miles here, and 10 miles in 53 minutes, just outside 53 minutes, would be on pace around 70 minutes, which would be really, really impressive. So anything in that ballpark of 53, 54, 55 minutes through 10 miles would be really impressive for these two. And for anyone out there, sort of a keen hobby jogger, not hobby jogger, that's it. I mean, a keen runner. These ladies are probably running around 5.5-minute miling, which would give you a park run of around 17.5 minutes. You know, I'd like to see how many females run a 17.5-minute park run this week.
Absolutely right.
Let alone, you know, 4 of them back to back.
Yeah, some excellent Saturday morning context there from Hannah. So still looking good. You can hear the breathing. Actually, it's nice just to hear the pitter-patter of running shoe on tarmac. The breathing sounds nice and measured and nice and even. And in Lily Partridge's case, all those hours and days spent down in the south of Spain training in warm weather over the winter. This is where we all find out how effective that's been.
No, and it's quite quiet spectator-wise out there, and I'm sure they'll look forward to getting back downtown and a bit more of the crowd atmosphere. But also it's kind of pure, this, isn't it? Like you say, the sound of their feet. Just they've got a couple of gentlemen for company, but really it's just 2 women fighting it out on the roads. Further
down the course, Kenenisa Bekele still checking his watch every few minutes into the last couple of miles or so, and well, a reminder that the course record 61.40, and there, well, just slowing up a little bit in that 11th mile. Yeah, so that pace, if you know that it's hard to tell with the cumulative time, but for 4:44 is bang on 62-minute pace. But obviously you can see there's a string of miles faster than that. We'd be looking for an average of 4:34 for a 60-minute half marathon. So yeah, he's not going to be far off, is he? He's not going to be far off at all. It depends on how badly he wants it, and as we've seen several times, he can come good in the latter stages. The track speed, I suppose it's a little bit fortuitous to talk about track speed for somebody who has not raced on the track for so long, but it's something surely that you never really lose. The instinct to push in the final stages of a race still stay with you. Absolutely, and he does look tired. And that doesn't concern me. I back him, but I like this. He could have come here and coasted. You know, he's clearly in fantastic shape. He could have come here and just won. But no, he really wanted to test himself, and you can see that aggression and fatigue in his face. But you know, look below the legs, you can't see it, no. And that's what you like, just below the waist. Sorry, you can just see his legs, just the momentum's keeping going, and he's really wanting to test his body today. Well, I think it's a new revitalised Kenenisa Bekele we're watching here and have seen over the last year or so. He was well aware of the criticism that perhaps he wasn't putting in the work, that he was maybe being distracted by his many business interests. He has a number of hotels in Addis. He has other business interests as well, other demands on his time. Was he putting in the work? Was he doing the hard work? You know, he's 37 years old now. Did he have the appetite for it? And I think, as we mentioned at the top of the programme, that blistering performance in Berlin last year rather put paid to all those suggestions. No, absolutely. And do you think he would have liked to have a test today? Or do you think he would rather have had a solo run? I think he'd like to have had a test. And with all due respect to Chris Thompson and the other British runners, and to Marius Kipserem, who we haven't really seen much of today, I think he was looking forward to, in fact I know because I asked him, he was looking forward to going toe-to-toe with Lawrence Chirono, the Kenyan. Runners just about to embark on Tower Bridge, and what a moment this is for all these amateur runners, club runners, many people perhaps running a half marathon distance for the first time. This is, in many ways, in terms of running in London, this is as good as it gets. Running with no traffic on a warm, sunny Sunday morning over Tower Bridge. An absolutely brilliant feeling. Absolutely, and I think, you know, if you have your friends and family out there cheering you on, it'd be pretty easy to really enjoy today, and I hope those runners are. Still a reasonable way to go. And many of these runners, of course, will be using this big half as preparation for the London Marathon themselves, celebrating its 40th birthday this year. And it's come a long, long way from that first ever London Marathon in 1981. Now, a small change in the women's race here. Not by much, but Lily Partridge now leading the way.
As I was wondering, yeah, when was the first time we were going to see Lily going to the front? I think these ladies have probably got around 3 miles left to go. And Lily will be in heavy training for the marathon. She will have tapered down for this. She will want to feel good. But I wonder how much of it is how fast can I run those last 3 miles? What can my body do under 10 miles of fatigue? And it could just be an element of she's now going to unleash. But we'll see. I mean, Samantha Harrison's been tough.
Shelley Woods about to win the women's wheelchair race. What a return to form for Shelley Woods, who took time out, of course, to have her baby last year and has been trying to get herself back into fitness. And this is a terrific return here from Shelley Woods. The two-time London Marathon champion is victorious just outside 62 minutes. So a winning return to London for Shelley Woods, her first ever victory here in the big half. That is a big performance from Shelley Woods in 2020.
To be whether Samantha Harrison can battle back onto Lily Partridge. They're going to be running under quite a lot of fatigue here. To me, Lily looks good. It'd be nice to know who's in third as well. But Lily Partridge does look like she's pushing on to take a British title here. Is also on grabs for in this half marathon.
Yeah, lots up for grabs, not just the win of the race itself, so some prize money, qualification for the World Half Marathon Championships, as we mentioned, in Poland at the end of this month. And Lily Partridge on all fronts looking good. Her half marathon personal best is 70:31. That was set in Reading back in 2015. But she's run a very measured race here, didn't panic when Samantha Harrison took that early lead. She was quite a way ahead, wasn't she, in truth, in those early miles? She was, and I think
there's a tendency in these races, it's hard not to go out fast. And Samantha Harrison's really held on to her pace well, but I think what we're starting to see now, there'll be a lot of maybe more of the male runners that are perhaps overreached in the first half of this race. They look like Lily just seems to be passing man after man after man, and that can be a really good morale boost, and I think that will help her run fast. But Samantha Harrison, I like that she's not got herself isolated. She's still got company here, and that's keeping her in touch with Lily. I wouldn't write her off quite yet, but to me, Lily does look pretty strong.
Yes, all credit to Samantha Harrison. Could easily have folded, but she's keeping on the coattails of Lily Partridge, and still a comfortable margin between second and third place. We've got Steph Davis and Hayley Carruthers, who are the chasing two athletes. So it's Partridge in one, just ahead of Sam Harrison in second place. And the clock ticking down now to the finish of the men's race. And Kenenisa Bekele, once he hit Tower Bridge, he had pretty much stolen a march on Chris Thompson. Still working hard, still aggressive. And I think he's got this course record held by Mo Farah in his sights here. 61:40, remember, Mo Farah, who had the benefit of company last year. He had his training partner with him in the latter stages of the race, so there was a definite sprint finish. And he's working his way in the final couple of minutes of this race towards the iconic Cutty Sark, the famous T-clipper, and be waiting for him in Greenwich.
What message does this send to you about Kenenisa Bekele?
This sends a message. Yeah, this sends a message to say, are you watching Eliud Kipchoge?
Yeah. What do you think he's capable of in Tokyo, if he's capable of this on his own?
A winning performance here from Kenenisa Bekele, the best track athlete of all time. And is that a warning, I wonder, for Eliud Kipchoge for the London Marathon, which will take place on these very streets in 8 weeks' time?
Here we go, and Chris Thompson coming in for second. He's held on really well out there on his own. I think he's going to have a decent time as well.
Chris Thompson has run really well here today. Made the early running a very, very aggressive first half of the race for Chris Thompson. And Chris Thompson just outside 61 minutes.
I think he's about 5 seconds off his personal best there, which is absolutely phenomenal. Running most of that second half solo, I think that's an absolutely fantastic run from Chris. And I bet he'll be very, very happy with that. It's a British half marathon title and second place overall. It was a great day.
Well done, Chris Thompson. So the first two home in the men's race. Kenenisa Bekele a comfortable course record for him, and Chris Thompson just outside, as Hannah said, just outside his lifetime best, which was 61 seconds dead, set at the Great North Run back in 2012. Lily Partridge then, on her way, and that gap between Partridge and Harrison is growing.
And like I said, she's just picking off these male runners, and I think she's really just looking forward and trying to see how far she can finish this race. Oh wow!
Second place there. Rainbow Cooper finishing second in the women's wheelchair race, and Jake Smith third home in the men's race. The youngster, you marked our card, didn't you, earlier on today, Hannah? A terrific performance. And Mel Nichols coming through in third place in the women's wheelchair race. So the top three home in the women's wheelchair race. Shelley Woods coming home on her return to action here in London. And the top three home in the men's race, with Kenenisa Bekele ahead of Chris Thompson.
And Jake Smith there in third, perhaps taking something off his British under-23 record there, but booking his place to the World Half Marathon, as it looks like Lily Partridge and Samantha Harrison will be doing the same. Lily just looks, first time, I think she's up in the effort there and up in the tempo.
Yeah, the shoulders just starting to rock a little bit, and a little bit more intent, I think, on the shoulders and the face of Lily Partridge. Well, there we are. Ross Millington has also come home, but Jake Smith, yeah, what a terrific performance. We'll bring you confirmation of his time as soon as we can, but that must be very close to a lifetime best.
38-year-old Chris Smith shaking hands with a 21-year-old Jake Smith. It's quite a nice range there. And Ross Millington looking really, that's a really strong performance off Ross as well, and looking forward to seeing how he goes over the next few weeks.
Lily Partridge then, 63 minutes, the course record, remember, 70:29, held by Charlie Purdue from 2 years ago. She'll be watching, I'm sure, from Australia with interest here, because there's so much up for grabs here. We've got places for the World Half Marathon Championships, as we say, British Championships as well. And of course, there's a stepping stone for many of these athletes for the London Marathon in 8 weeks' time, and qualification places for Tokyo 2020 later in the summer.
Absolutely, and that, yeah, this makes me optimistic. I think Lily's training must have been going quite well to be looking this good, and it's nice to see her out running there. And it's a lot of hard miles over the winter, and as a marathoner, you don't get the chance to race much. And that's what always seemed the hardest thing for me. You can spend all that time training, and then you only get to do your event a couple of times a year. It must be really fun to come out like this in a half marathon and show off your hard work. You're
absolutely right, and Mo Farah, I know, amongst others, felt that difference very acutely once he stepped away from the track, not racing anywhere near as frequently, and of course all your training building up for just 1 or 2 races a year. Yeah. But Lily Partridge, look at the determination on her face here. She really senses that this is, well, it should be victory, but it's a question of the time as well. 70:31, her personal best, which is only a couple of seconds outside the course record today.
And I wonder, yeah, with Samantha Harrison running so aggressively in that first half, it's going to help pull Lily through to a fast time here. It's all set up well for her, and it's a nod to Matt Rees as she overtakes him, famous for helping a competitor over the line in the London Marathon when it was extremely hot a few years ago. But I'm not sure he'd like to be getting overtaken by Lily right now.
No, that won't do his...
he might put up a bit of a fight, which could help Lily. I think it would be good.
Some things never change. So into the final mile or so here for Lily Partridge here in the big half. Wonderful conditions. Winter sunshine. There we are, plenty of runners still out on the course. 15,000 runners taking part from the 4 boroughs, 6,000 of those from those specific 4 boroughs. This very much a community event, a festival of running across the weekend. This the showpiece, the centerpiece, but we've also got the little half, the big mile, the big festival as well.
And I'm sure some of these individuals out here will have friends that they go running with, but to get to pound the streets with this many people, that really will feel very different to sort of those solo miles people might be doing in the dark before work or the dark after work. To come out on a Sunday morning like this, like we keep saying, on the closed roads and the beautiful sunshine around sort of iconic sites.
And just being part of an official event, I think, always gives you an extra spring in your stride. It's a very different experience, as you say, to all those solo runs. Lily Partridge then very much on her way, approaching Greenwich, and Cutty Sark not far away now into the last 4 or 5 minutes. She is looking back, Just checking how much comfort she's got. I think she's got quite a nice little cushion here that she's built up over Samantha Harrison.
No, it's good to look though. You don't want to get caught out. Yeah, you don't want a surprise coming up on your shoulder. And I often wonder, is that at this stage in the race, is that her going, I'm tired, I want to back off, or is it, oh, I can just risk everything? There's no, you know, I've got that distance, I've got that lead, I can throw everything at it and see how fast I can finish.
Not quite as easy as she was, whether that's because she's feeling the pinch or she's deciding to work harder. Which of those two do you think it is?
I think she's working harder. I think, to me, it really looked like I'd be interested to hear her comments after. I mean, what was it, a deliberate decision? Really lift those last 3 miles, and I'm sure she's had some sort of instructions from her coach and stuff. You know, how are you going to make the most out of this event? You want the overall result and the time and the position, but it's also what elements can you take forward in your preparation for the much larger. I'm sure for her, the big focus will be that London Marathon, trying to book a place to Tokyo.
Well, the cadence has certainly picked up. The head starting to rock just a little bit from side to side. We're not quite into Paula Radcliffe territory there in terms of the head bobbing, but a little less stable. But she's still looking very, very comfortable indeed.
I haven't seen her take on a drink or a gel at all. This looks like just a you know, it's interesting to me when you see different people approach an event at this distance, and fueling is an important part, and I'm sure we'll see lots of the club runners and the fun runners that have had to incorporate that into their training. But for Lily, it looks like she can just get out there and hammer herself for 70 minutes and make it.
Yeah, she's been feeling good. She's been posting very, very positive pictures and comments from her training base in Murcia over the last few weeks, so she must be coming into this race feeling and looking good, and she's certainly delivered on that. It's her third appearance in this still very young race, the big half. First run in 2018, she was second on that occasion. She was 5th here last year and looks to be going all the way here in 2020. A really measured performance here from Lily Partridge, with approaching 69 minutes on the clock, so just a couple of minutes left of running.
No, and if there's anyone sort of keen on running stats, Lily's very good at putting a lot of stuff out there on social media. I'm pretty sure she's on Strava as well. If anyone is curious to sort of see, you know, what's the mile splits and what's the pacing effort she's put into this, I'm sure that'll be out there. And I think she posted about a session the other day, 3 or 4 by 3 miles. And that's the sort, you know, that's a park run. Yeah, she's sort of done a park run as a rep, and she's done a lot of them. And I do wonder if that's sort of part of the element today.
So Lily Partridge on her way to victory here, with Samantha Harrison, who made much of the early running, in 2nd place, and trying to close her down, Steph Davis from Scotland, the amateur runner, who's also trying to book a place on the team for Tokyo in 2020. And Heidi Carruthers in 3rd and 4th in pursuit. But Lily Partridge here, barring any accidents, will be on her way to victory here. 70:29, remember, the course record held by Charlotte Purgey, who also ran a very measured race here last year, 12 months ago. Charlotte Purgey, who's currently in Australia, as we mentioned, warm weather training, getting ready for that London Marathon at the end of April.
She's looking at her watch. She knows what she's aiming to do, and whether that's just whether she's just clipped off from a mile there, I'm not sure.
Well, into Greenwich, and the crowd's thickening all the way. Just a nice little glance away. She'll make a couple of now final turns. Just the final couple of 100 meters into Greenwich, gritting the teeth. She knows that course record has perhaps gone. It has gone, but Lily Partridge here is storming to victory. It's been a really measured performance, a terrific performance. She was 2nd in 2018, 5th last year, and Lily Partridge here has put in a wonderful performance in front of Cutty Sark. Here she comes, Lily Partridge to Samantha Harrison and to Steph Davis, the 1, 2, 3 in the women's race.
Now, I'd say it's fantastic from Harrison to carry on, to hold on to that 2nd place, and Hayley Carruthers coming back in a really strong 4th position here. I think she's like, oh no, and they're getting either side of that. But it's good to see Hayley Carruthers negotiate that smoothly and come home for a 4th position. A really, really strong performance from all of those top 4 today.
Yeah, it augurs well for the British team. we said, plenty at stake here for these women today. Places in the World Half Marathon Championships, less than a month away. But Lily Partridge, you know, look very, very businesslike there. And it's good to see that winning smile from the athlete from Aldershot, Farnham District.
Absolutely, and there are British Athletics can take 5 athletes to the World Half Marathon Championship. So depending on what some of the other ladies that aren't here today, the likes of Steph Twal and Charlotte Purdue, want to do, we could well see some of the other ladies from today on that team for the World Half Marathon Championships.
So the top 3 there in the women's race, and of course plenty more unfolding over the next few hours here on the streets of London. There are plenty of British runners. We'll try and pick out 1 or 2 of the club runners who we've identified in advance worthy of mention. And of course, amateur runners, club runners, many people here in training for the London Marathon and other marathons as well, of course. There's Boston, as Lawrence Chirono will be defending his title the week before the London Marathon. But marathon season very much up and with us. Some people perhaps...
wonder if that guy usually gets to join in on the runs. A bit confused, why are you not taking me with you?
Absolutely, yeah. Sunday morning run. So good club runners still filing through. These are all runners with very, very good times, well inside 2.5 hours for the marathon.
There's Jenny Spink
coming through, yeah, in 5th place unofficially. Great run from Jenny Spink with just, what, 20 metres to go. So the top 5 through. So there we go, the elite race is all finished here. Let's go back to Radzi. Well, Radzi is amongst the runners there. We'll be going down to Radzi. Radzi is now waiting for us